Tuesday, August 10th, 2021 at 7 p.m. This is a meeting of the advisory committee, and our main agenda item is to have a brief discussion with our DPW director, Mr. Heglin, regarding an application for a grant to complete a culvert inventory project. And while we have him here, I'm also going to invite him to just share for informational purposes. We're not taking any action at this time, but just some information about some issues at the library and in general with the building maintenance account for FY22 so far. But first, why don't we get started with the culvert grant application. So Mr. Heglin, just so that you know, I sent everything to the advisory committee that includes the brief scope of work. So I think people are familiar with that, but for the benefit of anyone who might be watching, do you just want to explain a little bit about what this grant would be doing?
Sure. Hopefully my voice will last through the night. Shortly after I got into town, I began to realize that we don't have a lot of good records about a lot of different things. One of the ones is culverts. I know the town has undertaken some pretty substantial culvert replacements in the past. And there was one temporary culvert replacement on Forbush Mill Road that was done last year on an emergency basis as a temporary measure for a failed culvert. So it really began to, in my mind, point out the fact that we really need to get a better handle on our culverts in town. Find out, number one, where they all are, because we don't have any good maps of where they all are. Number two, what size are they? What are their conditions? What is their ranking? If there was a failure of that culvert on a main road versus a back road versus a single road that serves one house, each of those criteria, ranks a culvert differently in the pecking order for replacement or repair or whatever's required. So in talking with a consultant that came to see me, there's a grant program put out by the DEP. It's a competitive grant program. It's a 60% grant, 40% town match, where 20% is a cash match and 20% is in-kind match through labor. Basically what it does is consultant will assist the town in developing maps of where all the culverts are. We will then go out with data collection iPads to do assessments on all of the culverts, look at the insides, outsides, take pictures. While staff is doing that, the engineer will be reviewing the data as it's coming in live to the GIS program, make determinations of which culverts they feel need closest scrutiny, which may involve maybe going through them with cameras or whatever to get better handles of what the condition of these culverts are. And then once all of the field work is done, they'll take all of the data, put it all together, and rank each culvert based on a number of criteria: criticality, consequence of failure, what's likelihood of failure. If it does fail and it's a main road, like I said, it's the consequence of a failure is pretty significant if there's a large detour of traffic or whatever. But the first step is to really identify where they are and what the conditions are, and then come up with a comprehensive plan where we can outline what needs to be done on an annual basis or every other year or whatever, however we choose to do it in a cost-effective and manageable manner. Dealing with crises is not the best way of running a town, obviously. I personally like to prepare in advance. So I sent the participation survey form off to Brian, seeking the support of the advisory committee for this application. Again, it's only the application. There's no commitment on the town at this point for any funding. It's just strictly for the application to hopefully gain enough points in the rankings through the DEP to be awarded a grant. It's estimated the total project cost will be between $70,000 and $80,000. would be the total project cost. If we are awarded the grant, the cash match would be showing up in my 2023 fiscal budget. The DP realizes how fiscal governments work and town meeting schedules and things like that. So this work would actually occur in fiscal 22 and 23, if that's the case. So go ahead, I'm sorry.
Just a quick question on the, so you said the total estimated cost of this project is around $80,000. We would be doing a 20% match with labor and a 20% match with finances. So we're looking like roughly a $15,000 commitment potentially that would show up on the
15 to 20. Obviously, the consultant hasn't pinned down the exact amount of what it would be yet, but I think that's it'd be the $15,000 to $20,000 range.
And sorry, did you say you would put it into which budget? I forgot what you said.
It would be next year's budget,
but
fiscal 22.
It would be in one of your operating budgets rather than like a warrant item.
That's where I would try to include it. Yes, as opposed to a separate line item.
Okay.
So in seeking the participation of the advisory committee, basically I started filling out the form for Brian. If the advisory committee so believes that this is a worthwhile project and garners the support of the advisory committee. There's no commit on the part of the town. It's basically the more of these forms that we can produce, and depending upon how we answer, it gives us extra points in the grading criteria. DEP staff, from what I understand, will go through the applications and award so many points for so many answers, so many, depending upon what the answers are. My goal is to get enough points to be within the funding range of the project.
So I asked Randy to be here so that people could ask any questions that they might have, but I also just want to make it clear that I would like for the committee to vote tonight on whether to support this, because assuming that we vote in favor, I want to complete the application, get it out to him so he can submit it before the deadline. So first, are there any questions from the rest of advisory about this?
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Hi, Randy. So I read through the scope of work, and the way I read it, it sounds like there's work for the town staff to go through and do the initial survey. Then it looks like 2 consultants will spend about 2 days going back through the same set and then ranking the culverts. It seemed like 70 or 80K seems like a lot of money for what amounts to 2 days for 2 people plus whatever the finalizing of the report is.
All I can say is that's the fee that they've indicated it would be. I mean, obviously there's licensing software costs for the Esri. There's also the whole ranking criteria for each. They're not going to just look at they're not going to, during those 2 days, they're coming back to look at different culverts. It's culverts of concern, particularly concern, that they may come back and look at, but they will rank each culvert on every road as well. So each culvert, 100, whatever they are, will receive a separate ranking and then separate analysis based on all of the data that is field collected by staff.
This is Anne. I think you had me at hello, because this has been a long-standing issue in the town. I'm not sure that we even have identified every single culvert that is there. And we've had issues with them and had to do emergency work and, patching work for at least as long as I've, been on the advisory committee. So I think this is a responsible way to go about it. I know the consultants are kind of pricey, but I would rather get a thorough report, and then we could sort of plan out, what needs to be attended to earlier than later. And it would be a much more comprehensive approach to something that we really have not attended to over the last, I don't know how many years. So that's my sort of my thinking on this.
The consultant provided me with a sample of one that they did for the town of Sudbury,
Uh-huh.
which I basically used as the model for what I was thinking, and it's spot on for what I was hoping to complete for the town. I mean, I've done these in the past for previous other communities I've worked for, and they've worked out really well. You know, I can always forward the Sudbury sample over to Brian tomorrow, and he can share it with folks here. They, again,
That would be
but like I
interesting.
said, there's no commitment at this point. We can always turn down the grant with the DEP if we decide we don't want to move forward with this. But I think it's something that we do need. We need to identify where all the culverts are and what their relative conditions are. I think is important as well.
Okay, well, one more quick question.
Sure,
In
go
the
ahead.
scope of work, it says that the culvert inspection protocol is going to be based on a WPI major qualifying project. Is this are these consultants, are they civil engineers and don't they have their own protocol? Why is the WPI MQP used as the basis for this?
It's my understanding of that is it's the WPI model is the gold standard for doing a study like this. It's highly recognized by the DEP. The firm I'm in discussions with that is assisting with the preparation of a grant application and the one that did the study for Sudbury is Time Bond, which is a medium-sized 400-person plus or minus firm, multidisciplined, everything in-house, ranging from civil to hydrologists to certified wetland scientists to architects, and the whole gamut. And I think they're more than qualified to do the work.
Okay, great, thank you.
Randy, I just wanted to double check. Do we have a full list of all the culverts, or is part of the work identifying some that may not have been on our record?
I am not aware of a list of all of our culverts.
Okay.
I do have a list of where catch basins are by street and coordinates, northings and eastings coordinates, but it's not much of a help if it's not on a decent map.
Yeah, no, that's what I was wondering.
I have never, if you go on the town's GIS, there is a drainage layer, and I think that is the catch basins. I think there is not a differentiation between, it's just shown as a dot between what type of structure it is, if it's a catch basin, if it's a drop inlet, or if it's a culvert. There's no differentiation, so it makes it very hard. This study was going to come up with a much better mapping system, GIS-based mapped
And
mapping
I'm
system.
assuming, Randy, we also don't have a good history of how many we've had to do in an emergency basis, have we? Because I think it's, well, it was.
I think
I remember.
probably the best history, to the extent we have one, would just be reflected in our annual town meeting warrants.
Yeah,
'cause that's,
yeah.
Or town report generally, I would assume my
Yeah.
position included in some kind of language in a town report.
Yep. Well, I do think it would be great. I can forward the Sudbury example tomorrow, but I would like a vote tonight. So unless there are any other questions, does somebody want to make a motion that we support this application?
I'll
I
make the
move
motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, so motion by Ann, seconded by Craig. All right, roll call. Bill,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
and I'm a yes as well. Okay, great. Thank you all. And to spare Randy's voice, I won't ask him to stay too much longer. And plus, we can't really have a substantive discussion back and forth about these things yet, but I did think it was worthwhile just asking him to give us a brief update on the situation at the library and with his building maintenance account generally for FY22. So
Great,
feel
thank
free.
you. Thank you,
Go ahead.
Brian. Yeah, thank you. Since the beginning of fiscal year, we've been hit with a number of unexpected challenges and expenses for our buildings, primarily between the library and the public safety building. We'll start with the library. I mean, as you know, there's a long-standing sewer problem within that building. The main sewer line that runs between two bathrooms and then along the backside of the wall, which collects all of the wastewater from within the building. One section of pipe is actually flowing uphill, and another section of pipe has a pretty significant sag in it. So we've contracted with the original mechanical engineer designer for the wastewater system in the building, for the piping in the building, to come up with a solution. And he's working on that solution. He's under contract for about $6,500 to develop a set of, come up with a solution, plans and specs. That will obviously have to go out for bid at some point in the future. It's not going to be an inexpensive job. It's going to involve taking up the concrete floor on the first floor between the bathroom through the hallway, and bringing in new wastewater pipes outside the building. The second area is right by the director's office. There's a significant sag in the pipe that goes under the floor. Again, it's under the slab. So all of this wastewater is going to be captured, repiped within the building and brought outside the building to convey the wastewater appropriately to the gravity main in the back of the property. I have no idea what that cost is going to be yet, but I just given a heads up to the committee that it is going to be a potentially significant cost to the town. We've had some issues with other issues within that building. The main water well, which served the building, I think everybody probably saw the the email blast that went out earlier this year for the library being closed for a number of days because the well pump went down. And it ultimately we ended up replacing both well pumps, one for the library and one for the public safety building, as they're both within the same casing. We also have a contract out with the original, the manufacturer's rep for the double hung windows in the building. There are over 60 double hung windows in the building that have to be repaired. You look at the number of the windows between the sashes and the frames, you can see directly outside. So that's an unanticipated expense that we're also going to be incurring this year. So all in total, I think short of the construction within the library, I'm looking at almost $20,000 in potential expenses just for the one building, for the one library. Some that have already been spent and some of them that are still in the process, like the consultant for the design solution of the wastewater system. The next biggest unanticipated or large expenditures that we have anticipated coming in the building maintenance fund is the public safety building. Now, these things that I'm describing to you tonight are outside of our normal maintenance costs that we pay for. For instance, like the cleaning of the buildings, the contractor that is used to clean the public safety and the library and stuff, those come out of the same account, but those are ordinary expenses that we expect and have paid for a number of years. So the public safety building, the spill containment manholes have to be replaced with both underground storage tanks, and the vents on the underground storage tanks have settled, so they are sloped the wrong way. So when you attempt to fill the tank, oil comes out of the vent pipe. So that is a pretty expensive repair we're looking at for both tanks. That's on the order of almost $24,000. We also, this year, as part of our normal maintenance, something that has never been done at both the library and the public safety building, is we had the cleaning out of the oil water separators in the parking lot. And that has never been done. And at the library, I mean, at the public safety building, we discovered a problem with one of those oil water separators that's requiring us to do some additional research. We've had to hire a licensed site professional to assist us in tracking down the problem. I do not have an estimate solution yet on what it is. We need to do some additional investigation. We've got smoke testing and some video inspection going to occur. Again, the challenge for this building is that we do not have as-built drawings. Same with the library. We do not have as-built drawings for this building. The original drawings for the public safety building had three water quality basins, and there were actually 4 that were actually installed. The water quality basins are structures which filter out oils, salts, oils and sediment before it gets into underground infiltration beds. So we don't know where they go. There's nothing tied in. It's a real question there. I mentioned we had to replace the drinking water well. The controller for the other well was giving us problems. So at the same time they came out, they did the library, because both pumps are in the same casing. We did both wells at the same time. We also, if you go around the backside to the police station, we had a problem with the emergency generator. We started to get fuel in the coolant. We've had, it's a John Deere engine. We've had them come out. We've replaced the injectors and cups and seals and stuff. And in doing that, they started looking at some of the internals to the engine, and there's quite a bit of pitting and rusting and showing corrosion on the inside of the engine. We're hopeful. I mean, we really should have done a more extensive repair to that generator, but by doing the injectors and seals and cups, we're hopeful that it will be reliable enough to get another couple of years out of it while we plan for its ultimate replacement. A more extensive repair.
Oh, I think you froze, Randy. Let's just wait a second and see if if his connection stabilizes.
I'm sure he dropped out before all the good news was going to start.
Right.
Well, now we could use some good news.
Let's just give him another minute to see if he rejoins. While we're waiting, we can approve the minutes that Bill circulated, assuming everybody's had a chance to look at them. These are the minutes from June 29th, 2021.
I move we approve the minutes from June 29th, 2021.
I'll second
All
that.
right, sorry about that.
No problem. Go ahead. We can just pick up right off where you were. We'll vote on that motion later.
Oh, no, continue on. Go ahead.
Oh,
Finish the
okay.
motion.
So all in favor, Bill,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Ann, Anne? Oh, we lost Anne. I'm a yes as well. Okay, go ahead, Randy.
Okay, that's pretty much it for the public safety building. One thing I did want to mention, if you notice, we have a temporary generator there, so public safety and fire was always had emergency power available while this issue is going on with its permanent emergency generator. It's a larger expense, but it was still, we knew it was coming potentially. In the highway garage, we're replacing the oil burner, the oil furnace in the shop. We received a grant through the Green Communities thing. It's a 50% grant, so our cost is about $4,500 to replace that. And again, that comes out of the building maintenance. And one of them, the last item I had is there's a potential pretty large expenditure for the Florence Sawyer School that still is out there. I'm not sure what that cost is going to be right now. It has to involve the replacement of some carpeting.
Okay. Well, so
adding up all of those things that I, guesstimating some costs and stuff, and our budget for that line item is 116,000. And all of these big items are adding up to about $155,000. So, I mean, we're okay for now, but I just wanted to give a heads up to the advisory committee that, at some point in the future here, we may be asking for, some kind of additional funds added to that account to cover from some of these expenses.
Yep. No, it's helpful to have that advance warning, and there are different ways that we can talk about how those funds might be made available. But I think we can have that discussion when the time comes. And also, hopefully, I know Bob Zach from the library trustees said that when the plan with the library becomes more concrete, they would obviously plan to come and explain the situation as well. So we want to hear what they had to say, but thanks for the heads up.
Okay. One last thing that I did have, I just want to give you an update on the building assessment that was passed at town meeting. We did a request for qualifications. We received responses from six firms. I asked another citizen to assist me in ranking and scoring the proposals, and we concurred on the top three. And we've got interviews scheduled, planned for next week for those top three. So we hope to have a chosen consultant on board within a short period of time, and then we can move forward with that project.
Great, thank you. Well, thanks for your time tonight. You can drop off whenever you wish. This is really helpful information, and I'll get the grant application back to you in the next day or so.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thanks everybody for your time.
Thank you. Good night, Randy.
Thank you.
Before we adjourn, is there anything else that folks in advisory either wanted to put on the agenda for next time, or anything going on?
Brian, what are your thoughts on future meetings in person versus Zoom, or when are you thinking about a return to in person?
I hadn't really given it much thought. I know that the order permitting meetings via Zoom, I want to say it goes until sometime in 2022. And so I guess I was sort of thinking, the busiest meeting season for us starts December, January. Hopefully we're in a position by then to be in person. And my feeling is until then, staying virtual for the occasional meeting is probably fine. Sorry, my 3-year-old was just about to make a nude appearance on screen. So I'm glad he got nabbed at the last second. So maybe we should move to in-person meetings sooner rather than later. Do folks have thoughts or ideas about that?
think that makes sense. You know, I don't know. These have worked well, except somehow I got lost on this last session, so.
Oh, I see Jenny, you have your hand up. Sorry.
I do. No, I just put it up a second ago. Just something to consider if you do decide to go to in-person meetings is that through the winter, it was really convenient, I found, for a lot of people when we had bad weather to still stay on a schedule. So you might consider like alternating and having some in person, some via Zoom, so that for people, I shouldn't say just weather. Some people for childcare, some people for weather found it more convenient and we had fewer cancellations. So it might be beneficial to have some still by Zoom, so that people that can't find it difficult to show up in person, like the Kristen Noels who, you know, are an hour away, might be able to still meet with advisory without being in town.
That's a great point, and I think we do want to try to be convenient for the department heads and committee and board folks. So thanks for
Yeah.
pointing that out.
Yep, and it is April of 2022, just to make that point. All right, thanks.
Thanks. Any other comments?
I mean, I agree with all that, and those are all good points. It would be nice to have some in-person meetings at some point out in the future, but you know, when the time's right.
And to that point, oh, sorry, go ahead, Ann.
I was just thinking the mix is kind of a good idea. I mean, to be able to occasionally not have to come in, or all of us need to be in for a reason. So I think we should be flexible.
And maybe a good opportunity for an in-person meeting would be when we do our, remember last year we did a run through of the whole budget just by ourselves without anyone.
Yeah, that was helpful.
You know, we could do that in person, and it might be a good way to spend some time together, and it wouldn't inconvenience any department heads. So, but thanks for raising that possibility. Okay, so does anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor, Bill,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
and I'm in favor as well. All right, thanks very much, everyone. Have a good night.
Okay.
Good night,
take care.
everyone.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you, Jenny.